Welcome back again, Power Up enthusiasts, to the Power Up tutorial channel. We are continuing with part 2 of our Remastered series for the Power Up Challenge walkthrough for 2024. And today we're going to be focusing on our foster family information. So we're going to walk through creating this table in the Dataverse and importing all the data into our Dataverse. But before we begin, hope you guys are doing okay. If you're new here, hit that subscription button, add that notification bell, and if you're enjoying the video, give the video a thumbs up. All right, let's not waste time. Let's get into the video. All right, if you're following me from the last video, we used the shelter ID for our primary key. Well, in this video, as you can see, we have some unique foster IDs. So we are going to be using the foster ID for our primary key when we go to the Dataverse. I did also want to point out some other fields for the foster family before we move over to the solution. So aside from the fact that I am going to increase the word length for the foster location, I also want you to note that we have a new data field called the date field. So this is going to be a new data field. And the last one we had a number data field. And then for the last column, which is the local shelter, as you can see, it has a series of numbers that repeat themselves, but in different sequences. This is a lookup field to the shelter location we created in our last video. All right, but let's not waste any more time with this table. Let's just jump ahead and start building our tables in the Dataverse. All right, I'll see you when I move over to the solution. Okay, so we are back in our shelter solution. And just like before, we have only one table, but we need a new table. So we're just going to hit on new up top. So hit new and then go down to table and then table to create a new table. And we're going to call this table. All right, I'm back and we are calling this new table. So for display name, I put in foster family information. And this foster family information gets inputted dynamically. So leave it as it is. And then description is going to be store foster family information in the Dataverse. That's going to be for our properties tab. For our primary column tab, so switch over to the primary column tab. We are going to rename this to foster ID, like in the Excel spreadsheet. So rename this to, and I named mine foster ID with a space. You don't have to put the space. And hit save. So your primary column should look like this, and your properties column should look like this. And when you're ready, hit save to create a new table. Awesome, and our table is being created. And it's finally created with our first column, which is the foster ID. All right, so let's move on to creating other columns. Now, there are different ways you can do this. You can use the drop-down menu. I'm going to use a different method today. We're going to just use, since we are already on the foster family table, I'm just going to use the table itself. So you can click on columns right here on the table. And then we'll enter the column screen, and then you can click on new columns too. So for our second column, if we open our foster family table, our second column is the foster claimant name. So let's just do that right away. Here we go. And I put foster claimant name as our display name. And then description is name of foster owner, simple description. And then data type is going to be single line of text, and format, leave format as text, behavior simple, required optional, everything looks good. Hit save to create our second column. The third column is going to be our foster location. As you can see, it has more words, so we have to adjust the word count. So open new column again. And for the display name, I named it foster location. And for description, I put location of foster claimer. So this is going to be our display name, and this is going to be our description. For data type, we're going to switch it from single line of text. So click on the single line of text to open the drop-down menu. And for the text, just let the side drop-down open and let's click text area. So it's going to be data type single line of text, but for the format, it's going to be text area. Simple behavior is going to be simple, and required optional is fine. For the advanced options, open the advanced options now, and let's increase this word count to 300. And after that, hit save to complete the creation of our third column. All right, that's done. The next column is going to be the join date, which is going to be a date column. So going back again, new column. Let's enter the join date. And I put mine with a space in it. So dates of date of foster join or work. And this is going to be a date column. So let's change this to dates. But I'm not just going to use dates. I'm also going to use dates only. So click the side drop down menu, and where it says data and time, let's pick date only. So we should have data type, date and time, but the format should be date only. Behavior should be simple, required optional. Everything else looks good. Just hit save to create our fourth column. And the final column is going to be our local shelter, which, as you can see, is going to be a lookup field. And we're going to create that lookup field right now. But what is a lookup field? So a lookup field is a field that you have on a table that forms a relationship between one table and another. So for our foster family and our shelter information, these are two different tables, and they are separated. So you need a relationship to be formed between both of them, and there are different ways of forming a relationship. One way of forming a relationship in the Dataverse is to use a lookup field. So let's just go on ahead and start creating this, and then I'll show you what that means. So we're on the foster family information, and I'm going back to the column field, and we're going to create our lookup field using the column field. So you can create it using either columns or relationship. We're going to use it using the columns. And it's as simple as clicking on new columns, naming your column. So it's going to be local shelter. And description is going to be lookup to shelter information. And for data type, we're going to use the lookup for our data type, and leave required as optional. And this is how we form the relationship. So you can see a related table here. We just have to search for our shelter information. And you can do that by just typing in there, and you should find your table. So the table we're looking for is called the shelter information table. That's the table we want to create a lookup to over here. So once you're done with that, hit save to create our lookup field, which will form a relationship between the foster family table and the shelter table. right, and it's spinning. And finally, we have our lookup field, which is the local shelter. And now if we go back to our foster family information, we should have all our table columns. So it's time to import data. And just like before, my favorite method of importing data is to use the import data, not import data from Excel. Like I said before, I always get errors when I use that. So we're going to use import data this time around. So just go ahead and click import data since we are done preparing our columns and our tables. And then go ahead and click on browse. And let's pick our foster family table. All right, and open that. All right, so I just skipped a part just like yesterday. It shows your credentials, so you don't really want to show that on the internet. But after you're done with the connections and it says success, you should see the screen. And on the screen, pick sheet 1 to pick our table data and hit next. And let this load, don't rush it, let it take its time grabbing all the data it needs to do its job. Because I've seen errors when people try to rush this. So let this load. Once it's done loading and everything looks good, hit next. For our mapping screen, we are not going to use new tables since we already created our table. So click load to an existing table. And we're going to look for our table again. So when you find the table, which is going to be the foster family information table, let's try auto map and see if we get luck. So it auto mapped fine. We found the foster claimer name, foster ID, foster location, and join date. As you've noticed, there is no local shelter here. Don't worry about that. That's fine. So once all this looks good, hit next. And it says refresh manually. That's fine. And hit publish to grab our data. And like yesterday, I usually like to go to my edit screen to wait for my data to come in. While we're waiting, I'm going to edit this a little bit so it looks like our, so you could just drag and drop, I believe it's foster ID, foster name, location, join data, and local shelter. All right, let's refresh while we're waiting for our data to come in. Refresh again. And refresh again. I can pause, but I want you guys to see how long it takes for the data to come in. Awesome. So we finally got our data in. I want to go back and see if we got all the rows. Yep, it's saying there are like 20 additional more rows, so it looks like it got all the rows. We can still cross-check that. I want to go back to the edit screen. All right. And just like before, so we have a missing column, which is the local shelter, and I said it's fine. Now, there are times where you get all the data and there are times where you don't get all the data. This is also one of the situations where you don't get all the data. And just like yesterday when we had to input the types field manually, the same thing applies to here. My suggestion is to either sort by foster ID or foster name. I prefer foster name, so I'm going to sort by foster name. So just sort A to D by foster claim and name. And go ahead and sort your Excel spreadsheet. So open your Excel spreadsheet too. And I would suggest sorting this too. Sort A to Z. And now you should have two tables that look exactly alike. And all you have to do is map the local shelter. So that's what we're going to do. We have our foster claimer name sorted. And always, so we're just going to map from local shelter all the way down to Stella Ali, which is SO4. So SO2 to SO4. And you can come along with me. It's the same process. So our first one is SO2. So for Aliyah Foster, just click on the local shelter and it will dynamically go to our local shelter information table and pick the primary keys and just select SO2. It will save automatically, so you don't need to hit save. And then do the same thing for Amina Turner all the way down to Stella Ali. All right, so I will do mine and then I'll see you in a second. All right, so I am back and I filled in all the local shelter information all the way to the end. I want to show you a little trick too that can help with the tables in Excel. So you can actually hide these tables. So you can right click and hide this, and then right click and hide this too, just in case you don't know about this trick. And then you can have your name and your local shelter side by side while you're picking them. So you're not having to jump through different columns to see what you need to pick out. But yeah, we are actually done with the creation of our foster family information, and we've added all the table data in. Thank you for joining me in this video. All right, see you in the next one. Goodbye.